Welcome to the Dr. Chris Radio Horror Show here on WCW. Tonight on the show with us, we have a guest on the show that I have been an admirer of his films for a very long time, going back to Worcester, Massachusetts. I saw at a Bijou Theater here in Worcester, where we record Radio of Horror, downtown, where the old mall used to be, which is now a bunch of different stores and a cancer treatment center. They had this like a fantastic art house theater called the Bijou Cinema, and a lot of people finally remember it. They wish they could have relocated or at least saved the cinema very underground, because it was definitely had to go downstairs to go to it. And they showed a lot of classic art house films, foreign films, and independent films. And this is the first probably exposure to independent films that I was aware of at the time. And one of the films that I saw at this cinema was The Lost Skeleton of Cadaver. And the director, Larry's on the show with us now. Thank you, Larry, for coming on the show with us.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me.
Yeah, this film goes back to what, 2001, 2003?
All the way
I have the
back,
timeline right?
yeah, back to those early days of cinema, which around that time, this is what's actually when digital was starting to get more attention, which was one of the things that prompted us to make the movie.
Was the fact that digital was coming in to replace 35 millimeter?
Well, the fact that we could afford to make a movie, because it just made a huge difference in budget. It was just so much cheaper.
Where did the idea for this come from? Where did you start as a filmmaker prior to this film?
Well, I wasn't really a filmmaker prior to this film. I was an illustrator, mostly science fiction illustrator. At the same time, I was working in Boston theater I was acting, and then I started writing and directing. And I was doing theater for a while, and then I started doing some on-camera work, commercials and industrials and things that would come in the Boston area, and became a SAG actor. Started writing screenplays, and then finally, when after a move to LA, that's when what led to me tackling, my first film.
Yeah, I read that you were a part of the Boston Shakespeare Company.
Yeah, I was there for one season. Yes.
That's fantastic. What did you perform there?
Let's see. I started because I was just like I was not a trained actor. I just sort of stumbled into it. I went with a roommate to an audition at one point, and I got cast to my surprise. And so I started acting, and I just kind of enjoyed it, and auditioned for the Boston Shakespeare Company. Did a season there, and I was doing like smaller roles, like the King of France and King Lear, some of the smaller parts. And I think the biggest part I got was by the end of the season. I played Florizel in A Winter's Tale, which was kind of the male ingenue. Um, but it was a good experience. It was really good, and it was shortly after that I started writing and directing plays outdoors.
I have a play myself that I'm trying to shop around right now. It's based on my graphic novel.
Oh, oh, cool. Good for you.
Yeah, because you had also worked in some underground comics, and then I found many years ago the old the Galileo magazine.
Yeah, get my first illustration gigs were for Galileo magazine,
And
and
I
then
put two and two together when I saw your name, and I was like, God, why does that name look familiar? And then I went online and found out, oh my God, he directed Lost Skeleton and Cadaver in the other films.
this guy's everywhere. Yeah, I
That
mean,
guy's everywhere. It's just weird, just weird connections when you remember a name connected to something you really
yeah,
enjoy. So,
hmm yeah, and I just,
um,
I enjoy doing a lot of different things, which sometimes spreads me kind of thin because I mean, I still illustrate.
uh,
I'm illustrating, fairly regularly. I'll do paintings, paint surrealism, and then and writing articles, and contributing to DVD and Blu-ray commentaries for horror and sci-fi films.
what in particular that you didn't create are you most a fan of that you were on a commentary for? I'm a huge commentary fan, so I always ask questions like this. I'm a massive commentary fan. As long as within the first 10 minutes they're actually talking about the movie and not something else that has nothing to do with the movie. You've listened to commentaries before, and sometimes you're like, "What am I listening to?"
Right. And most of my commentaries are kind of as Tom Weaver's guest. Tom Weaver is certainly one of the kings of the commentary right now. And I was a guest of Tim Lucas's on his Magic Sword commentary, the Burt Gordon film Magic Sword, which was a huge favorite of mine. Yeah, I mean all kinds of films. I also have done some voiceover work for commentaries as well, and narrated a couple of extra features that were documentaries. So yeah, they keep me busy, and I'm especially fond, I think, of the '50s black and white sci-fi or monster movies and such. And of course, those are the ones that inspired Lost Skeleton.
Um, is the artwork on the individual disc releases of the Lost Skeleton trilogy? Is that your artwork?
Yeah, we didn't quite get a trilogy. We didn't.
Oh, I thought Dark Stormy Night was part of. I'm sorry, I thought Dark and Stormy Night was part of it.
Well, it is in a way. It's kind of like they're of the same flavor, you might say.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one. I saw the Lost Skeleton Returns and the original Lost Skeleton, so I didn't have a chance to watch Dark and Stormy yet.
Yeah, I have four movies that were sort of in a sort of parody vein, I guess. Although you can also look at them as a loving homage. Trail of the Screaming Forehead is the other one. That was the one I made. I made that between Lost Skeleton of Cadaver and Lost Skeleton Returns Again. That Trail of Screaming Forehead was about essentially an alien invasion movie of
Uh-huh.
crawling foreheads taking people over in a small town. And that was very fun. It was a departure from Skeleton, which was, of course, black and white and with a rather cheap look. And this was in sort of eye-popping. We tried to kind of replicate the early '60s eye-popping Technicolor look.
Awesome. Where did you when you're researching like the props you need to make it look like it's from 50 years ago at this point, 70 years ago? Um, where do you find this stuff sometimes to make a film look ancient and old?
Well, some of it is of necessity. I mean, in Lost Skeleton and Cadaver, to give an example, the rocket ship miniature, we needed a rocket ship miniature. Now we've got very little budget, and so we have to be resourceful. So I took a toilet paper roll and I took a part of a plastic toy for the kind of the nose cone, and then I made a clay uh, pointed tip, and then I cut cardboard fins and glued it together, sprayed it silver, and I actually drew with a tiny, tiny fine point. I drew little rivets on it, and we're talking, a very small prop, but you know, when it comes to the look of it, though, it just comes from knowing these movies well. I think I didn't particularly study anything, specific. It's just knowing these things well. And when it came time to make the mutant, which Courtney Skinner built, that friend of mine who's a brilliant illustrator and artist, and he crafted that, and it was, we're familiar in that case. We're very familiar with Paul Blaisdell's work um, in the low budget movies of the '50s, and so it kind of comes naturally if you grew up with this stuff.
As a fan of film yourself and a fan of comic books, do you have a particular comic book that you're a huge fan of today, currently, or in the past?
Um, no, but this I don't have really. I don't follow comics these days. However, it's a perfect time to plug my graphic novel of my Steam Wars project,
Sure.
which is
Yeah.
currently available. It's on Amazon. Steam Wars is a project I've worked on for years, and we're currently I'm involved in turning it into an RPG, and it is a sort of it's different kind of steampunk, and it's one of my pet projects, probably my biggest one. So there's a graphic novel of that, and we got a fine crew of artists on that. And I wrote it. It's three different stories, and uh, so that's out there now.
What Have you as a I don't you don't live in Massachusetts currently, right?
Oh, right.
No. There's a steampunk festival that happens every year here in Waltham, Massachusetts.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, steampunk has grown considerably in the last decade. It's international. I mean, there's steampunk conventions and festivals all over the world. The surprising thing is that there's not more movies in that vein, which I hope to change. So we'll see what happens.
What are you currently working on coming up besides the comic book for a film?
I am the graphic novel's done. That's out and done.
Okay,
Um,
that's out. But yeah, do you have a film you're working on coming out?
I don't have a film coming out. I'm doing a lot of writing for the Steam Wars RPG. I have been doing a bunch of illustrations also for RPGs. I have been doing some other illustrations on the side and writing articles for different publications. For instance, Bare Bones magazine. I usually am in every issue with an article either on something to do with movies or something to do with classic television, which is a big interest of mine too. So basically, I'm as always, I'm kind of wearing a lot of hats.
There was something I came across and I didn't think it was you, but then I suddenly realized, wait, the photo looks the same. I thought it was Doc Savage, Doc Armstrong, this book that's connected to the Lost Skeleton universe.
Yes, and I deliberately, I sort of wanted to look modeled after Doc Savage. I love those books. I grew up on those, and the Doc Armstrong in the suburb at the edge of Never is basically a novel follow-up to the Lost Skeleton series, following the further adventures of Doc and Betty and Paul and Betty and Crowbar and Lattice and so on, but not the Lost Skeleton. He does not make an appearance in this.
Right. Like I said, characters from the universe. Have you ever thought about branching into video games?
Yes, in fact, we've had inquiries about that, and I think that when I do that, I think it'll probably be involving Steam Wars, but I have not. That's one area I have not gotten into yet.
Well, Larry, why don't you plug your social medias where people can find you if they want to purchase a book or a copy of anything that you own that you can help yourself with your graphic novel where they can find that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The graphic novel is on Amazon, and it's if you just Google Larry Blamire Steam Wars, it'll come up. And my other books are on lulu.com. And if you Google my name and lulu.com, you will get my page of books. There's about a dozen, I think maybe more, different books I have of cartoons. And I have a book of imaginary comic book covers. I have two volumes of Western horror short stories, which is another love of mine. And yeah, yes, I'm sorry. Spirit's Death Realm is an anthology that is currently available, and I have a story in there.
Oh, awesome.
Um, and also, my plays are available on Lulu as well.
Oh, fantastic. Awesome. Well, hey, Larry, thank you again for coming on the show. I have been a fan of your work for quite some time, and it's been a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you having me.